Good to see everybody here tonight. I'm glad you're here. We're going to be studying some really neat things tonight. I'm glad we're in this section of Isaiah because there's a lot more good news and a lot more encouraging things, and a lot of it is talking to us just as much as it's talking to them. And some very, very neat things here that we'll talk about tonight. All right. As soon as everybody gets seated, we'll start with a prayer. Let's pray. Our gracious Father, indeed, we're thankful for this night, and we're thankful that we can study these things. We can see the things that you told Isaiah and the things you tried to tell your people back then, Father, and to see your plan unfold, Father, how it is and how much it affects our lives, and showing how much you want to be part of our lives, Father, and how much you want to do in our lives, and how you have called us to be your servants, to be the light in this world, the representatives, Father, and help us take this seriously and learn what we can do, Father, to serve you in this kingdom. And we thank you for all these things through Jesus. Amen. All right. So where are we at? Let's see the thing right here. All right. So in 40 to 48 is a section that I talked about, and from 40 to 46 has been about idols, the court cases with idols. And then 47 and 48, 47 is the conclusion of the Babylonians in that section. 48 is going to be the conclusion to his people in that time. And what's to me is interesting about all this is that when did Isaiah write this stuff? Anybody remember any dates about this? It's 740, and probably from 740 to 698 or something like that. This is written. And what we're going to talk about tonight, the first thing is Cyrus, and he's talking about Cyrus, and when did Cyrus come into the scene? Not for another 150 years, 100 years at least, yeah. Pardon me, Denny? 539. Yeah, and 700. So God that's what's fascinating about this. This is probably the most profound prophecies in Scripture that God, like I was going to challenge somebody here to name who will be president in 100 years. What will his name, and what's he going to do? You know, and that's the phenomenal thing that God did through Isaiah. He can do those things. He can name that person when he's not even born and stuff. It's a fascinating thing. A question that I had: that why didn't God just abandon his people? And what we'll see tonight is they never did come around. They never did fulfill their mission as a servant. They failed, okay? And why didn't God just abandon them? Right? What do you think, Rich?
Well, he made a promise to Abraham way back that through his line everybody would be blessed.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, it's for his sake, for his glory. And one of the big things, like remember in Exodus, remember when they were, I forget what scene it was, they're in the wilderness, and God is very angry with them, and Moses prays for them. Remember what he said, God was going to destroy them. And what did Moses petition God for? Remember that scene? What's that, Tom?
Essentially, he was saying, spare them, just destroy the big.
Yeah, he did say that.
And he pointed out, remember the covenant.
Yes. He said, and I think God knew that, but it might have been a test for Moses or something. But Moses' words were, says, why should the Egyptians say it was with evil intent that he brought them out to kill them in the mountains and to wipe them off the face of the earth? And I think that's the same thing now. Why God doesn't just, he kept them and he brought them out. He put them back into the land, because that just shows his glory. What he's able to do, even with these people, he can still do what he says. And the world looks at this, and so they can't see. God did not fail. God did what he said he'd do. And that's one of the big things about that. All right, let's see. So let's just start in here with Cyrus. And Jordan, would you mind reading this here?
Thus says the Lord to his anointed, to Cyrus, whose right hand I have grasped, to subdue nations before him, to loose the belts of kings, to open doors before him, that gates may not be closed. I will go before you and level the exalted places. I will break in pieces the doors of bronze and cut through the bars of iron. I will give you the treasures of darkness and the hoards in secret places, that you may know that it is I, who
here's God. This is the thing. 150 years ahead, he's saying all this, calling him by name. And can you imagine the Jews, that, you know, when they read this and say in 700, they're looking at this like, what are you talking about, Willis? You know, that would be a big thing. But even the people in captivity too, this, you know, the God to be naming this person, and you know, I could see them being incredulous about this and arguing. And we see they did argue with God about things. All right. So anyway, I don't want to spend a lot of time. I got a lot of things I want to show you tonight. But then this here, Rodney, would you mind reading this here?
For the sake of my servant Jacob and Israel my chosen, I call you by your name. I name you, though you do not know me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. Besides me, there is no God. I equip you, though you do not know me, that people may know from the rising of the sun from the west that there is none beside me. I am the Lord, and there is no other. I form light and create darkness. I make well-being and create calamity. I am the Lord who does all these things.
Okay, can you see two reasons why he picked Cyrus? Let's take a couple minutes on it. You see, what two reasons did God choose to pick Cyrus?
He wasn't a believer in God.
Yeah. Well, actually, he was a idolater. He believed in all the gods. Yeah. So, but yeah, God wasn't his main God. Yeah. So.
That's for the sake of Jacob and Israel.
Yeah. For this, that's one reason he did it, and then the other reason. You see, what do you think, Rodney?
That people may know from the rising of the sun that there's none beside me.
Yeah. He's doing that for everyone else, for the world to see, is why he's doing all that. All right. What might God have to say to us about our desire? Like human beings, it's within us we want to control everything in our lives. We want to be the God, in a sense, of our lives. And what does God think of us when we think like that? And this here is a telling thing how he thinks. He says, woe to him who strives with him who formed him, a pot among earthen pots. Does the clay say to him who forms it, what are you making? Or your work has no handles. Woe to him who says to a father, who are you? What are you begetting? Or to a woman, with what are you in labor? There's another version here I thought was kind of interesting the way it says, what sorrow awaits those who argue with their creator? Does the clay pot argue with its maker? Does the clay dispute with the one who shapes it, saying, stop, you're doing it wrong? Does the pot exclaim, how clumsy can you be? How terrible it would be if a newborn baby said to his father, why was I born? Or if it said to his mother, why did you make me this way? See, and so this is God looking down at humanity and just marveling at how humans think, you know, how we can think. Buddy?
It's interesting how many times he's had this conversation as well, because he had it with Job. Where were you when I...
Yeah, Job kind of had that.
He's had it here. And I think it's maybe in another spot, but it's really interesting how many times that conversation comes up.
Yes, and it's in all of us. We can be that way. And then here's a neat thing, like it's in about the case about idols. There's been a lot of arguments against idols. And here's a thing in here, idols don't do this. God says, I did not speak in secret in the land of darkness. I did not say to the offspring of Jacob, seek me in vain. I, the Lord, speak the truth. I declare what is right. See, the idols can't do these things. And we're going to talk about some interesting things about idols here in a few minutes. And then this here, and so he calls them again together. He says, make your case. He says, assemble yourselves and come. Draw near together, you survivors of the nations. They have no knowledge, who carry about their wooden idols and keep on praying to a God that cannot save. You know, God is just constantly trying to reason with people, you know, and bring us to our senses about things. Danny, would you mind reading this one here?
Declare and present your case. Let them take counsel together. Who told this long ago? Who declared it of old? What is not I, the Lord, and there is no other God besides me, the righteous God and the Savior. There is none besides me. Turn to me and be saved, all the ends of the earth. For I am God, and there is no other.
Yeah, it's just it's really common sense. I mean, we should all see it, but it's not. He has to say these things, and I really like that verse 22. Like says, "Turn to me." He's just pleading with people, "Turn to me and be saved, all the ends of the earth, for I am God and there is no other." He just keeps on inviting people to do this. And then this, and I'll get through this here pretty quick, but somebody else, Heath, would you mind reading this one here?
By myself I have sworn, for my mouth has gone out in righteousness, the word that shall not return. To me every knee shall bow, every tongue shall swear allegiance. Only the Lord shall be said of me, my righteousness and strength. To him shall come and be ashamed all who were incensed against him. And the Lord, all the offspring of Israel shall be justified, shall the Lord.
Do you see in any New Testament reference in here?
Every knee shall bow.
Every need. Where do you think that's at, Tom? Yeah, that's right. It's Philippians, was it? I'm guessing Philippians 2:11. Yeah, that's interesting. The context of that, where that was good. But I think that's going to be the reality of what's going to happen. All right. So next year, let's see. The people will declare, "The Lord is the source of all my righteousness and strength," and all who are angry with him will come and be ashamed. In the Lord, all the generations will be justified. In him, they will boast. And see, that's us. What's going to happen? The Lord is the source of all. We will see that. Once we, and we all have. Once we've seen what God has done and what He gave for us. This is how we are. This is what says to what we're to be like. I was trying the transition thing. That didn't work very good. All right. Now, here's some verses. Cyrus is all over the Old Testament. And so I'll just go through a few of them. And John, would you mind reading this first one? Maybe read us several of them, John. Okay.
In the first year of Cyrus, king of Persia, in order to fulfill the word of the Lord spoken by Jeremiah, the Lord moved the heart of Cyrus, the king of Persia, to make a proclamation throughout his realm, and also to put it in writing. This is what Cyrus, king of Persia, says. The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth, and he has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah. Any of his people among you may go up, and may the Lord their God be with them.
Okay. Hang on just a second. I was reading a thing about Cyrus, and as Doug, as you had pointed out before, he was an idolater, but somehow he knew that God called him or something, and he recognized God, but yet when he took Babylon, it was Marduk, their god, that he reinstated, and he claimed, and we'll see in his cylinder. It is? It is. Okay. All right, get that out in just a minute. Yeah, but he claimed it was Marduk that was, and so that's what it was. But at any rate, he is an interesting dude. Let's see what else we got here on him. I think it's a couple more. John, would you mind reading that one too?
Thus says Cyrus, king of Persia, the Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and charged me to build him a house at Jerusalem, which is in Judah. Whoever is among you of all his people, may his God be with him. And let him go up to Jerusalem, which is in Judah, and rebuild the house of the Lord, the God of Israel. He is the God who is in Jerusalem. And let each survivor, in whatever place he sojourns, be assisted by the men of his place with silver and gold, with goods and with beasts, besides freewill offerings for the house of God that is in Jerusalem.
Okay, now why would this be, what is so different about this from other kings, other conquerors and things like that? You saw anything different about this? What do you think, buddy?
Is this what you were asking last week? Cyrus is for Israel, everybody else was against Israel?
Yeah, that's part of it. Part of it. Danny?
Or they, up until then, like Babylon or Syria, their whole method was take
Yeah.
over a place and then mix up the people, right?
Oh, yeah.
They
Yeah.
bring in other people and mix up enough so that they couldn't build an army to rebel against. And Cyrus, because he did this with all kinds of nations too.
was unique in history in that way. The first one to ever come along and let the people go back, worship your God in your place, and he just had to remain faithful to him because they had, like, if you read more about it, there were governors or whatever that kind of oversaw things and stuff. We saw that in Ezra. There's a case of that Tattenai or something like that. He was one of those that was involved in that. But a lot of people look at Cyrus as a human rights type guy. They use it as a model. There's some business along that, what he did. But what's interesting about Cyrus is how do you see Christ in Cyrus? Because God says, I anointed him, okay? He's one of the few kings that were anointed. He was his servant. He called him a servant. So how do you see Christ in Cyrus? And it's meant to be that way.
Kind of, I don't know, this could be similar, could be different, but he made a decree, an unbreakable decree.
Okay.
And Jesus, the covenant with us is unbreakable. We could sin and fall out of that, but it's truth.
Okay, all right. What do you think, Danny?
I think there's a big picture of setting free the captives.
Yeah.
Right, where Cyrus did that physically with
Very
the
good,
nations and going back to worship. And Christ is setting free the captives.
Yes.
With the purpose to go worship at the building.
Yeah. There's an Exodus scene here, and it's a representative that Christ will do the same thing. And we might look at some of that more later. But yeah, he was very unique in that way, and he's Christ, and it's a picture of Christ, what he's going to do for his people. What Cyrus did for the physical nation, Jesus is going to do for the spiritual nation, is what that's saying. All right. Then there's, I think, one or two more here. And not only did he set them free, but he financed it. All the nations that he sent out, he financed it from his treasuries with all the money be taken. And they took all the stuff that the Babylon took from the Jews. He gave it all back. And there was a lot of stuff. So Cyrus, king of Persia, brought out the vessels of the house of the Lord that Nebuchadnezzar carried away from Jerusalem and placed in the house of his gods. Then they gave money to the masons and carpenters, and gave food and drink and olive oil to the people of Sidon and Tyre, so that they would bring cedar logs up from Lebanon to Joppa, as authorized by King Cyrus, king of Persia. Now, does anybody remember what happened, though? Okay, so they came back, and under, who was it, the first one that was it Nehemiah? Zerubbabel. Yeah, Barney Zerubbabel. He came back. The relative, but they came back, and it was like 536 or so. I think they started building, and then it was stopped. But then they completed it in 520, something like that.
20 years,
yeah. Yeah, but then what happened? Anybody remember what happened? I thought I never really knew this before. I never studied it that much. But what happened? They got the temple built, but then remember what happened then? They had I think it was the Samaritans of them, they were complaining, and a letter was sent to, that they were going to be rebellious and stuff like that. And that governor, Tattenai, or whatever, who was a Persian official, came in and stopped it. They didn't get to start the temple. The foundation was laid, but they didn't get to build it until probably, 50 years later or something? I can't remember. 20? Yeah, I think so. Thought it was, but anyway, yeah, you might check that. But it was a long time that they had stopped that because of that. But at any rate, so let's see. Where am I at? But maybe this will explain. But Zerubbabel and Joshua and the rest of the heads of the families of Israel answered, "You have no part with us in building a temple to the Lord our God. We alone will build it for the Lord God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, commanded us." Okay, so that's what their answer was. So they wanted to be part of it. These northern, they were just a ragtag bunch, and so Zerubbabel, they refused it, and so then they sent that letter and got them in trouble. And go ahead, Danny.
I've seen some things too, like when because they kind of did that first when they started building the foundations.
Yeah.
Wanted to, hey, we worship the same God you do. Even though they
Yeah.
worship God.
Yeah, cannibalized it, yeah.
But that's when the Samaritans built a temple, and we're like in John 4, my fathers say worship on this mountain, and we say Jerusalem.
Very good,
That's
yeah.
when the temples were built, was in that time frame.
That's neat, yeah.
When they were rebuilding the other ones, they chose to just build their own temple.
Yeah.
And they talk about it was really similar in size and shape and all that kind of stuff.
That's yeah, I think an interesting study on the temple that was in Samaria and stuff, but yeah. But anyway, that's what happened there. There was a lot of conflict in that. Let's see. In the first year of King Cyrus, the king issued a decree concerning the temple of God in Jerusalem. Let the temple be rebuilt as a place to present sacrifices, and let the foundations be laid. And it has to be 6, okay, or whatever. He made that. But that letter that was sent, it was Artaxerxes, I think, was the king that got it, and he said, "This is crazy. Stop the building." And then it took a while for somebody else for them to go back. Was it Darius, the next king? That he was at least noble enough to research the records. Yes, King Cyrus did decree this, and so he made them undo all that, and they were able to start building it again. All right. And then we have some in Daniel, and Daniel, would you mind reading that?
And Daniel continued even to the first year of King Cyrus, 628. So Daniel prospered in the reign of Darius and in the reign of Cyrus of Persia. And in 10:1, in the third year of Cyrus, king of Persia, a thing was revealed unto Daniel, whose name was called Belteshazzar, and the thing was true, but the time appointed was long, and he understood the thing and had understanding of the issue.
Okay. And Daniel, yeah, he had some prior knowledge about all this stuff. All right. So Danny went by the museum in, I think, where'd you go, in Britain? The British Museum. Well, no, actually, Danny made this here. This is a replica of the Cyrus cylinder, of that there. You can see it looks pretty good, doesn't it? And Jordan, can you read any of this, do you think? It's cuneiform, but on it, on this thing, see, this is the actual size of it. But this, Cyrus made this, when did they let the Jews go? In 539? Between 539 and 530, this was made. He made the account of it. And what he says in it, he says, Marduk chose Cyrus, the king of the god of Babylon. He says, Marduk chose Cyrus. The text states that the gods, angry with the former king Nabonidus, deserted Babylon. But Marduk, the great lord, looked around for a champion to restore the old ways. He chose Cyrus, king of Ashan, Persia, and declared him to be king of the world. He goes on to say, it's claimed that Marduk ordered Cyrus to march on Babylon, and that Cyrus entered it without a fight because Marduk walked at his side like a real friend. Okay? And then it's all on this cylinder. He says, Cyrus presents himself as a devoted worshiper of Marduk, stating, I, Cyrus, king of the world. He presents himself as a worshiper of Marduk who strove for peace in Babylon, and every day I sought him out in awe. Okay, let's see. What else? It's all about his love for the gods and stuff. And Cyrus, he counts on here. He says, Cyrus says he returned the gods and people that Nabonidus had deported, stating, at the command of Marduk, the great lord, I return them unharmed to their cells in the sanctuaries that made them happy. The act restoring the local gods and their temples is what gave him legitimacy in Babylon. Okay, let's see. It says included in it is allowing Jewish exiles to return and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem, as mentioned in the Old Testament. Let's see. But at any rate, this is the account of all this, but he gives more credit to Marduk and stuff, and not so much God. I'll leave this up there. You can look at that later. But that's an interesting piece in history. And somebody said, I'm not sure if it's this piece or a piece on the back, but this was found at one time, and then somebody else found it another time later, and it's in Pennsylvania, another piece that goes to this. And I don't know why they can't get together and put it together, but they don't. The British Museum has one part of it, and the museum in Pennsylvania has the other part of it. But anyway, this is an interesting artifact of history that, that's pretty cool they got. All right. So that one there is in the, so we get to chapter 46, and what you see here, this is where God's conclusion of the Babylonians and their gods and how he views them and stuff. And somebody in the audience volunteered to read this. Leah, go ahead.
Babylonians' chief deities are shown as helpless and burdensome. They must be carried by humans. Bel and Nebo, the gods of Babylon, bow as they are lowered to the ground. They are being hauled away on ox carts. The poor beasts stagger under the weight. Both the idols and their owners are bowed down. The gods cannot protect the people, and the people cannot protect the gods. They go off into captivity together.
Yeah, what's interesting about this is that Babylon, and we'll see as the text goes on, they're the most powerful nation in the world. It was a fabulous city, fabulously wealthy, and they thought that they were the kings of the world. And we're going to see how much they thought about that. But now we see what their fate is here, and God's writing this, 150 years before it happens. But the fate of what is going to happen, the shame that's going to come upon them. Read this next one, Buddy. Would you mind reading that one?
God's care for his people. Listen to me, O house of Jacob, all the remnant of the house of Israel, who have been born by me from before your birth, carried from the womb. Even to your old age I am he, and to gray hairs I will carry you. I have made, and I will bear. I will carry, and will save.
This is an interesting, or a neat thing about our God, what kind of God he is. And even though these people were rebellious and obnoxious and things like that, and he's looking at us too, but this is how he looks at us. This is how the God of heaven looks at people, like even to your old age, I am he, and to gray hairs, I will carry you, It's just his concern for each and every one that's his children. I think it's really neat. How he is, and I think it's interesting. It's inserted in this like a reassurance. Babylon's going down, but not his people. And then this passage here about to whom can we compare God? And Morgan, were you able to read that?
To whom can we compare God? To whom will you liken me and make me equal, and compare me that we may be alike? Those who lavish gold from the purse and weigh out silver in the scales hire a goldsmith, and he makes it into a god. Then they fall down and worship. They lift it to their shoulders. They carry it. They set it in its place, and it stands there. It cannot move from its place. If one cries to it, it does not answer or save him from his trouble.
It's just the sad plight of idolatrous worship and stuff. And today, does anybody know what a secular humanist is? You've heard of that term before, a secular humanist. You know what humanists believe? What their idea is?
I believe it's that humans are the ultimate.
It's the ultimate, yeah.
In all
Yeah. We have that today. We have atheists, of course. We have agnostics. Anybody know what agnostics are?
My new God, my God.
Yeah. The existence of God is unknowable. They do it. But there's another person that exists. It's called the existentialist. Have you ever heard of an existentialist? It says a person who believes that existence precedes essence, meaning that they are born without a defined purpose, and it is up to them to define their own meaning and purpose in life through their choices and actions. Self-realization is a key part of this process. And that's like with a lot of people in this world, that's what they're all about, is self-realization. That is their God, and it's just been around forever. All right. This is another comparison to idols. Remember this and stand firm. Recall it to mind, you transgressors. Remember the former things of old, for I am God and there is no other. I am God and there is none like me. Only I can tell you the future before it even happens. Everything I plan will come to pass, for I do whatever I wish. I will call a swift bird of prey from the east, Cyrus, as he was talking about, and a leader from a distant land to come and do my bidding. I have said what I would do, and I will do it. And this, again, is just, we're seeing this contrast between idols and what God can do. There's just no comparison in this. Let's see. And now we're in chapter 47 here. And this is sad. This is sad. And like what I was talking about before, how Babylon wasn't. Rodney, would you mind reading that?
Just the text of it.
Yeah, just the text would be fine. Yeah.
Come down, virgin daughter of Babylon, and sit in the dust. For your days of sitting on the throne have ended. O daughter of Babylonia, never again will you be a lovely princess, tender and delicate. Take the millstones and grind flour. Put off your veil, strip off your robe, uncover your legs, pass through the rivers. Your nakedness shall be uncovered, and your disgrace shall be seen. I will take vengeance, and I will spare no one.
Okay. This is some pretty stuff. Do you know why, like starting up at the top, why does it say, come down, virgin daughter of Babylon? I thought that was an interesting way to put it, but you know why why he says virgin daughter of Babylon? And this is, again, looking at their arrogance and stuff, because they look at, we've never been conquered. I think that's the idea. It's not any moral thing. It's just they have never been conquered, I think is what it's looking at. But God is telling them the days that you're sitting on a throne, high and lofty, they're gone. And you'll never again be the lovely princess, tender as they were. Beautiful city, the wonders of the world were there. Those seven, what is it, the hanging gardens that were there. And you know how, that's an interesting story on that. You know why that happened? Why the hanging gardens happened in Babylon? Well, King Nebuchadnezzar married, I know,
I don't know who he was that he married, but he built it to remind her of her home.
Yes. I think her name was Amethyst. She was a princess of the Medes, and so they made this marriage, for the how they would do in those times. And she didn't like the desert, and she complained, I don't like this, So he, it's an interesting story of how that happened. And I forget where I saw that. I wish I could have found that. But the trouble, the hundreds of miles that they went to bring all these exotic plants back and stuff through the desert, keep them watered, keep them going. It was a phenomenal feat. And see, that's just a tribute, though, to the capabilities of these people. And they were phenomenally smart people. The stuff that they found about what they were studying, the science, the stars, all that stuff, they were sharp. And I remember I said this before, but one article said if they'd have kept going, there'd have been no limit to what these people could do. They were just brilliant people. And that's why they were so arrogant. But then what we see in verse 2, they're going to be then, instead of top, they're now going to be slaves. It's what's going to happen. And take off your robe and cover your legs, pass through the river. That means they're going to be in the water washing clothes. That's going to be their plight. And now that phrase there, your nakedness shall be uncovered and your disgrace shall be seen. That's an interesting term. Nakedness shall be uncovered. And it seems pretty apparent. What do you think it means? Your nakedness shall be uncovered.
Nobody's going to be untouched in their nation.
Yeah. Yeah, that's it. It's like one of the disgraces is to be naked. That was a big thing. But they're going to be totally humiliated. I mean, there's going to be no end to it. Public humiliation, disgrace. Their status is lost. Let's see.
Harold,
Yeah.
how many years was this before really Babylon ever had the prominence to even do these things, which is pretty amazing.
It's a window, yeah. It's a short, 70 years or whatever, the short window of what they did, because they didn't, they what's that?
It's like 605, right? First captivity, that was at the beginning of that.
Yeah, that was the beginning of it, yeah. Because Assyria had them subdued.
Well, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. That's what's kind of amazing about all this.
It is,
Is all this attention is on Babylon and what God's going to do to them and their problems. And it's said, 100 years or more before, they've very even been prominent as far as the world.
Yeah, they were still subdued, yeah.
Yeah.
That is interesting. That's a profound thing.
it really shows, it shows why the world tries every way in the world to say Isaiah was written
After the fact.
after all this.
Yeah.
Because it's too specific
Yeah.
to ignore.
It is, and if it's true, it's like you just need to say, yeah, there is a God, you know, and it looks very, very, very good evidences of all that. And you know, another thing about Babylon is they're used a lot, and there's a lot of metaphors for Babylon, like the pride of the world. Babylon is like the poster child for what the world is. God uses them. Revelation, we say, you see that Babylon is used, but they are the poster child for arrogance and all that kind of stuff in there. And then that last thing, it says, I will take vengeance and will spare no one. Okay? Is there a difference between vengeance and revenge? I think if I understand it right, vengeance is rightly. That's right. You are deserving of that. Well, revenge is something, it can be bad. It can be something that never ends. But vengeance is something that's right to do. All right. Hope we can get to this. They're defeated by their own arrogance. We're going to run out of time. But God talks about here what he... why he did what he did, and how he just used, it says, verse 5, "O beautiful Babylon, sit now in darkness and silence. Never again will be known as the Queen of Kingdoms." And God did this, "For I was angry with my chosen people and punished them by letting them fall into your hands. But you, Babylon, showed them no mercy. You oppressed the elderly. You said, 'I will reign forever as queen of the world.' You did not reflect on your actions or think about their consequences." And pride, and again, the message is pride is what brings you down. Now, go ahead, Danny.
It's interesting, just the phrase, like what you read from the Cyrus cylinder, and to hear like the way they talk about king of the world. It's part of what they claim to be.
Yes. They even, is it this one where they said, yeah, this is interesting here. They're defeated by their own arrogance. Now, therefore, hear this, you lover of pleasures, who sit securely, who say in your heart, I am, and there is none besides me. That is Babylon saying that. That's how arrogant that they thought they were it. They were the everything. And so God says, I shall not, and they said, they were Babylonians, I shall not sit as a widow, nor know the loss of children. What do you think God said to him? He said, these two things shall come to you in a moment, in one day, the loss of children and widowhood shall come upon you in full measure, in spite of your many sorceries and the great power of your enchantments. And they were, and it'll be interesting what we see in this. Let's see if we get to this. We're going to run out of time, so I want to get to this. All right, so I'm going to go the wrong way. I'm going to go like that. Like that. There you go. And God challenges them about stand fast in your enchantments and many sorceries for which you have labored from your youth. Okay, they had this amazing library of their sorceries and things. And like this one, here's two of about 7 or 8 of them. And this one here, there were 70 tablets of this here of covered eclipses, and it covered eclipses, comet stars, weather omens used by the astrologers mentioned in Isaiah 47. And it was in the library of Ashurbanipal. But you know how they gathered that intelligence? It was a lot of painstaking stuff. And it's like in eclipses, those were always negative, considered to be negative omens and stuff like that, or comets and stars or whatever. But everything that happened, they would document it. And that's these 70 tablets. So when they'd see something, they'd go to their tablets of all this intelligence or whatever, this data that they've collected, and they'd look down at that and say, oh yeah, this is what that, when this king went to battle, he lost because the stars were in this position, so we don't want to go, that kind of stuff. Or they would have then they'd have to make a special prayer or something to go, that the omens weren't with them. That's how they did this. And it was just expansive. I mean, they had PhD people, studying all this stuff. And this other one, the Barutu, but at any rate, the official textbook for liver divination. And there was hundreds of tablets on that, and listed meanings of shapes, marks, and patterns on sheep livers, okay? And then, so what they did is a sacrificial sheep would be offered, and the diviner would examine its internal organs, especially the liver, which was believed to be the seat of thought and intention. Marks, shapes, and colors of the liver were interpreted as signs or messages written down by the gods. And so that was all this data that was collected. If one time they did this and the liver was, cancerous or whatever, and don't go to battle because when king went when it was like that, they just had piles of information on that they would resort to. Now, has anybody ever heard of this word here? Extra spicy. They like their livers extra spicy, but it's called ecstasy. It sounds like extra spicy, but ecstasy. That's what it was called. That was a highly sophisticated form of divination. That was a big one with them. Let's see. They had dream omens handbooks that explain symbolic dreams used by dream interpreters. But in Daniel, what happened there? What was the problem there? Nebuchadnezzar had this dream, and they said, hey, well, tell us a dream, and we'll go to our books and, look and see what it is. But Nebuchadnezzar, what did he say? You tell me the dream too. Yeah, so that just put him out, and that's what made Daniel so famous. But here's some other things that they did. I think that's called oniromancy, something like that. The interpreting of dreams. But hydromancy, okay, observing patterns from oil dropped into water or smoke. And did you know that still goes on today? I watched a video, and the guy was telling you how to practice hydromancy. And he said you get a pot, and you fill it to water till it's about an inch from the top. And then you put it out so at night with the moon, when the moon is out. And then you come back in the morning before dawn, and you gaze into it, and you stare into it, and you do this day after day. And what you're looking for, whatever patterns might form, or whatever thoughts you might have, or whatever visions you might have, you write it down, and then it can be interpreted. And that goes on today. Another one was, let's see. A lot of this stuff is still happening today. Let's see. This is one. The terrestrial omens, the scheduled signs observed on Earth, such as strange occurrences in daily life. Anything. A guy takes his shirt off and puts it on backward. Anything like that would probably be in their book someplace if somebody did this and it meant something. Unusual animal behavior. Bird flying in a certain direction. They were just keen. I mean, they were keen on this stuff, and this is what God is destroying them for, because of natural events like earthquakes or storms. Okay. We're out of time, but God wanted to challenge our angels. Let's see, God's miss. There was one I wanted to show you. Let's see. This is the final thing about God, about what he says to his people, okay? And this is sad. He says, because I know that you are obstinate and your neck is an iron sinew and your forehead brass. I declared them to you from old. Before they came to pass, I announced them to you, lest you should say, my idol did them, my carved image and my metal image communicated them. God did this beforehand and didn't tell them, because if he didn't do that, they would say their idols did it, and they were that mad. It's just sad. All right, thanks a lot. We'll pick up on chapter 49 next week is where we'll start.